Welcome to the Simply Real Life podcast. I'm Sarah, the founder of Simply Real Health, here to help you simplify, amplify, and elevate your life. This show is for those of you who want the real talk on how to live a more intuitive and intentional life, a life that's healthy from the inside out, and one that feels more effortless, aligned, simple, and more alive. We cover it all, from health, wellness, mindset, motherhood, daily habits and rituals, to business and relationships, creativity and growth, and tiny tricks to feeling your best, and the energetics behind it all filled with personal stories, unfiltered conversations, and of course, answering all of your burning questions, all in the way of simplicity and keeping it real, so that you can create your own version of your healthiest life. Let's do it. Hi, you guys. Welcome back. I can't believe I get to say that. Welcome back. We're doing it. We're really doing this thing. Do you want to know something crazy? This spring, Simply Real Health is going to be celebrating 11 years in business. Isn't that crazy? I'm like, part of it sounds like, yeah, that sounds about right. And then the other part of me is like, oh my God, that's like a decade. It's so wild. Anyways, so as I was sitting down thinking of recording this episode, I was thinking to myself, like, wow, some of you have probably been with me that entire time. And that's amazing. You have seen me go through so many different life phases, 2 different pregnancies, moving houses, through the production of 2 different cookbooks, the creation of the baby guide, the creation of the cooking club, like so many things. Like the fact that I have filmed cooking videos in 4 different kitchens now, 2 of which have been remodels. Like you guys know, there has been so much life that has been packed into these last 10 years, including starting my own business and running a business day to day and becoming a mother and navigating life, daily life, and different seasons of life. I've had different health things go on, throughout the years that many of you are familiar with, that I'm sure we'll be covering in future episodes. And whether you've been with me for that entire time, or in the last few years, or you're completely new, here's something that I want you to know. There is no such thing as a perfectly healthy life. Although that is everything that our culture and society teaches, especially about health, I am such a believer that a healthy life is one that feels good to you, like from the inside out. That includes your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, the energetics of your health too. It's all important. They're all connected. And the point is to live a life that feels aligned to you, and one that feels vibrant and happy and alive and just full of all the good stuff. The point is not to be perfect. The point is to get to know yourself better. So there is no one right way to eat or move or live in your day. What really matters most is what is going to work for you and what feels best to you. But so many of us are so disconnected to that and to our bodies, to our hearts, to that true kind of like gut instinct that we have around things. Most of us are so very numb and disconnected from that. And trying to figure it out can be very overwhelming. There is so much noise out there and so much chaos about what you should be doing and shouldn't be doing. And all of it is very extreme, and it's very all or nothing. And we are just obsessed as a society with quick fixes and the shortcuts and trying to get these like results that are not actually sustainable. And maybe it's something you can do for a short amount of time, but if you're sacrificing every other area of your life just for that one thing, it's generally not something that's going to last or fit into your daily life. So what happens then to our mental state, to our trust in our own selves, in our trust in our own bodies, in the belief that we know what's best, and in every capacity, it really can mess with your head and really, really starts to impact the way that you view yourself and the way you think of health. And it can really skew what we think of as being healthy and puts all the emphasis on just the physical part without considering mentally being healthy, emotionally being healthy, and in every other way, how does your life feel? Oh, how do I know this? Well, because I lived it. For truly so much of my life, I was somebody who was obsessed with health and was searching, doing almost every diet I could find to find the quote unquote right way to eat where I could just never have to think about it. I share all of this with you today because back then my definition of health was so limited. It was just about the physical stuff, just about like small things. And what I didn't realize, and what took me decades to learn and actually unlearn all the programming that I had been taught around, food and workouts, of course, and all the physical stuff around health, but also the thought that your health is actually also encompasses your mental health, your thoughts, your emotions, the energetics of your own body, your hormones. I mean, it is all tied together. It cannot be pulled apart from every other thing. And I was miserable for a long time. I felt physically healthy, but mentally just very disconnected from myself. I had no trust in myself, no trust in my body. I was afraid of food. I had a terrible relationship to food. And that stuff impacts how you see yourself and how you put yourself out in the world and what you think you can do. And that impacts, your purpose and your passions in life. It impacts your relationships. It impacts everything. And I just had no idea. My scope was so limited and my definition of health was so limited. And so I share that with you so that you understand the background of where I'm coming from as I answer these questions. My perspective is always thinking about your health from a much higher level, like that it is this huge sort of like web of interconnected parts of ourself, and focusing on just one part without addressing or looking at the others or bringing them up to the surface only gets you so far. And to me, the definition of a healthy life, again, is one that feels alive and vibrant and joyful, and that you can be present wherever you are, whoever you're with, whatever you're eating, whatever you're doing, wherever you are in the world, that it's something that you carry with you from the inside out. And creating a life that you can really sink into, a life that you feel a lot of freedom with and flexibility around, and acting out of love instead of punishment to your body and to yourself. A life where there's not a lot of guilt or shame wrapped up in it, or what you're doing, or judgment harshly to yourself. It's very different than how we're taught. So my challenge for you this week is to think about your own definition of health. What does it encompass? What is it missing? Is it something where it's purely physical, or do you feel like when you're saying to yourself, I want to be healthy, or I feel really healthy, does that equate to feeling vibrant and alive and at peace with yourself, trusting yourself? Or is it kind of more the cultural definition of just looking at your physical health? There's so many different parts to this journey and expanding your view past the definition that we maybe learned in school. And then also ask yourself why it matters. Like, imagine what life would feel like if you did feel energized every single day, if you felt like food was a source of nourishment instead of being the enemy. If you felt like you can handle life's emotions and all the ups and downs that come your way in a very like grounded way. Like, imagine what that would feel like. Imagine what that would change. Imagine if your moods were steadier. Imagine if your default setting is a little bit more positively oriented. Like, all of those things matter so much to how we experience our life. And so much of it are things that we really can start to impact, when we think about just living a little bit more intentionally and mindfully. And we're going to talk a lot about what that means and how to start practicing those things and what that looks like in daily life. That's really a big hope in this podcast. But for now, I just want you to think about that. Like, what would that actually feel like, to feel like all cylinders are firing, that you're not in your own way, that you are, in tune with your body. You can read its signals. You can hear the things it's saying to you and listen and actually trust what it's saying. So in next week's episode, I'm actually going to share more about my own story with food and the journey for me of finding real food and how that simplified so much and took such a burden off my shoulders and opened up my eyes, opened up my palate. It opened up the things I was buying at the grocery store. There was just so many more options and so much more potential and so many more possibilities that really felt great, and starting to recalibrate this sort of old way of living and my old definition of health and being healthy and what that felt like versus living in a way that was a little bit more true and peaceful and grounded and connected to how I think we are created to feel without all the noise, without all the chaos, without all the comparison, without all the judgment and the self-sabotage. It just feels so much better on the other side. And that's really my hope for you and everybody in this community. This week, as you go about your week, maybe you take out the notes section of your phone, or you write in your journal for a couple minutes, or just start to think next time you're folding laundry or doing dishes or out on a walk. Just ask yourself, what does effortlessly healthy look like to me? What does it feel like in my day-to-day life? Like, how could I imagine kind of going through my day and just see what comes up? It's such an interesting exercise. And I will also add that if you have done or asked yourself that before, do it again, because our bodies are always changing. We are always in different seasons of life or coming in or out of a different transition. And we may need different things than we did in the past. So permission and freedom to know that all of that exists and is something that is always constantly changing, which is why it's always good to be checking in with yourself in the first place and asking yourself some questions, even amidst a busy and very full life, which I'm sure you all have. So permission to tune out all the noise, to tune out what everyone else is doing around you, and just get quiet with yourself. It really can unlock so much. That is all for today. Short and sweet and hopefully helpful. I can't wait to share more with you soon. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a great rest of your day and fill it with things that are truly nourishing to you in all ways. If you enjoyed this episode and want more like it, make sure you're subscribed to the Simply Real Life podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and maybe share it with a friend or two. That would mean the world.